Have you ever looked at a woman and thought she's so strong, nothing can break her? That image, the calm, composed exterior, is often a carefully crafted illusion. What you see on the surface doesn't reveal the storm she's weathering inside. Emotional strength is real, yes, but behind it often hides exhaustion, silence, and years of learning how to survive in a world that doesn't always give her space to feel. Most men don't see it. They assume strength means she's fine. But being strong has become a necessity, not a choice. And it's slowly killing the softness she once carried with pride. She's been taught not to fall apart, not to be a burden, not to complain, to hold it together for everyone else while quietly carrying her own weight in the dark. She has become the emotional pillar for her friends, her family, her relationships, and in doing so, she's forgotten how to rest in someone else's strength. So when you come into her life and only admire the strong version of her, you miss the very part of her that aches to be seen, to be understood, to be held without having to prove anything. This isn't about rescuing her. It's about realizing that what looks like independence might actually be burnout. What sounds like I'm okay might be a desperate cry for someone to notice she's not. When a woman has learned to survive on her own for too long, she starts to believe she has to. She starts to wear her strength like armor, hoping someone will care enough to see past it. That someone could be you, if you're willing to look deeper. Because the truth is, she doesn't want to be the strong one all the time. She wants to feel safe enough to be soft again. She wants to exhale and not worry about being judged. And if you can be the man who gives her that, who doesn't just admire her strength but respects the pain it was built on, she will let you into a place no one else has seen. That is the reward for those who choose to see what others overlook. Most men miss this. They chase surface confidence, physical beauty, and clever words, but they never touch the soul beneath it. You have the chance to be different, to be the one who doesn't need her to perform strength for you, the one who brings peace, not pressure, the one who sees the difference between what she shows and what she feels. And when she feels truly seen, without needing to be strong, she will begin to trust in a way that makes her bloom. If you understand this, you don't just win her attention. You earn her softness, her loyalty, her trust, and that is the one thing every man is looking for, even if he doesn't know it yet. Stay here. Watch this through. What you're about to learn next will change how women see you and how you see yourself. Unusual activity has been detected from your device. Try again later. 95 B5 D500 and 33 ED20 2490 key. She may smile in front of everyone, but inside she often feels like she's not enough. Not pretty enough, not smart enough, not lovable enough. This isn't something she'll say out loud. Most of the time, she won't even admit it to herself. But it's there, woven into her thoughts, whispering in the background of every compliment, every moment of silence, every time she compares herself to someone else. And it's not because she's weak. It's because the world has trained her to doubt her worth, no matter how hard she works to prove it. From the outside, she might look confident. She may dress well, carry herself with grace, and laugh like she has no worries. But behind that is a constant scan for evidence that she's being rejected, overlooked, or forgotten. If she texts and you don't reply quickly, she doesn't just think you're busy. She wonders if she said something wrong. If you stop giving her compliments, she wonders if you've stopped seeing her. And if you grow distant, she doesn't get angry first. She gets scared. Because deep down, the fear that she's not enough is always close, always ready to surface. Most men respond to this the wrong way. They either try to fix her insecurity or ignore it altogether. But what she needs isn't repair, it's reassurance. Reassurance that's real, not performative, not just words. She needs a man whose actions make her feel chosen, again and again. A man who doesn't wait for her to beg for attention, but offers it freely because he understands her heart. When she feels seen in this way, something powerful happens. She starts to feel safe. And safety allows her to relax, to connect, to be fully herself. If you don't understand this, you'll mistake her vulnerability for drama. You'll pull away when she gets emotional. You'll criticize her for needing too much, and eventually she'll stop asking. Not because she's fine, but because she's tired of trying to feel worthy in your eyes. That's when you lose her. Not to another man, but to the belief that love is something she must constantly earn. But if you show up with presence, not pressure, with calm energy instead of coldness, she begins to believe something deeper, that she doesn't have to be perfect to be loved. This is the difference between attention and intimacy, between being liked and being trusted. When you understand how to speak to her fear of not being enough, not with pity, but with power, you unlock a connection that most people will never experience. You become the mirror that reflects back her true value, not her insecurities. And when she sees herself through your steady, honest presence, she starts to rise. Not because you saved her, but because you reminded her who she really is. That kind of impact isn't temporary. It's unforgettable. And it begins the moment you stop expecting perfection and start choosing her fully. She'll tell you she's fine. She'll act like your distance doesn't affect her. She'll pretend she doesn't care if you pull away. But underneath that calm exterior, there's a silent ache, a craving to know that she still matters. The need for reassurance isn't weakness, it's human. Especially for a woman who's spent her life questioning whether she's truly valued. She may act strong, but what she often needs most is the quiet certainty that you're still there, that you still see her, and that your attention isn't drifting somewhere else. The truth is, she notices everything. When your text grows shorter, when your tone shifts, when your presence fades without warning, she might not bring it up, but she feels it. She reads the change before you even speak. And in that moment, even if she says nothing, her heart starts asking questions. Is he losing interest? Did I do something wrong? Am I not enough today? These thoughts don't come from insecurity alone. They come from a lifetime of emotional patterns where connection was inconsistent and love felt conditional. She's learned to scan for signs, not because she's paranoid, but because she's been left without warning before. What most men fail to realize is how powerful consistency is. Not just grand gestures or romantic words, but small, reliable signals that say, I still choose you. A look, a touch, a message that doesn't need a reason. It's not about being overbearing, it's about being intentional. When she feels your steady presence, even in silence, it builds a bridge of trust stronger than any promise. And when that trust is real, she relaxes, she softens, she opens in a way that feels safe, not because you said the right thing, but because you showed up without needing to be asked. If you pull away the moment she becomes emotional, she'll close. If you respond with logic when all she needed was warmth, she'll stop sharing. And if you expect her to never need reassurance, you'll miss the deepest parts of her. Because the strongest women are often the ones who need it the most. They've learned to carry everyone else, but what they long for is someone who will carry them, even just for a moment, not to fix them, not to rescue them, but to simply say, you're not alone here. When a man can offer that kind of emotional presence without being afraid of it, everything changes. You don't just become attractive, you become unforgettable. Because you become rare. A man who doesn't run from emotion, but meets it head on, with calm, with confidence, with care. And when she sees that you're not going anywhere, that you don't see her needs as burdens, she stops pretending. She starts trusting. She starts choosing you back in ways that are deeper, stronger, and more loyal than anything superficial. That is what makes the connection unshakable, not perfection, just presence, relentless, grounded, real. Every woman carries a past, and buried in that past are moments she doesn't speak of. Moments that broke her trust, shattered her confidence, or made her feel invisible. It could have been betrayal, abandonment, or the slow erosion of being overlooked again and again. She may not tell you how deep it cut, but it shows in how she flinches at silence, in how she braces herself when love starts to feel too good, in how she pushes you away just to see if you'll fight to stay. These reactions aren't random. They're the armor she built around pain that was never fully healed. Most men misunderstand these responses. They take her distance personally, or worse, label it as drama. But behind her defenses is one haunting question she learned to ask early. Will he hurt me too? That question doesn't come from weakness. It comes from survival. When you've loved deeply and been broken, the brain wires itself to prepare for disappointment. Even when something good comes along, there's a part of her waiting for the floor to fall out. So she guards her heart with silence, sarcasm, or self-sufficiency, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares more than she's willing to admit. This is where your strength as a man gets tested. Not in your words, but in your steadiness. Can you stay when she's pulling back? Can you listen without trying to solve her pain? Can you see the broken places in her and not run away? If you can, you become something rare in her world, a man who is emotionally safe. And when a woman feels safe, the walls start to fall. Not all at once, But slowly, with each moment you choose patience over pressure, with every time you respond with presence instead of ego, with every time you remind her she's not too much, not too broken, not too far gone, the impact you can have on her healing is greater than you realize. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Show her through your actions that her softness is safe with you, that you won't punish her vulnerability, that she can stop holding her breath when she's near you. Because what heals a woman who's been hurt is not being told she's loved. It's being shown repeatedly that she's no longer in danger. Every man wants a woman who's open, connected, and loving. But very few understand what it takes to unlock that in her. It's not charm, it's not gifts, it's the courage to stay grounded when her fear surfaces. It's the maturity to not take it personally when her wounds speak before her heart does. And when she sees that you're still standing, still present, still soft in your strength, something shifts. She begins to trust. And trust is the foundation of everything. It's what makes her stay, not out of fear, but out of freedom. Because in you, she finds something she thought didn't exist anymore, safety that doesn't leave. One of the deepest needs she carries is something she rarely says out loud. She wants your presence, not your money, not your solutions, not your effort to fix everything, just your undivided, grounded, fully aware presence. When you're physically there but emotionally distant, she feels it like a cut. When you nod without listening or answer without looking up, her heart starts to shut down. Because what she's really looking for isn't attention, it's connection. Real, uninterrupted, soul-level connection. And when you can't give her that, she starts to question her worth all over again. Most men underestimate the power of just being fully there, of sitting with her without checking your phone, of holding her eyes when she speaks, of listening not to reply, but to understand. That kind of presence is rare. And for a woman who lives in a world constantly asking her to perform, compete, or prove herself, your stillness becomes sanctuary. She doesn't want to be with someone who's always trying to fix her sadness. She wants someone who can sit beside it, unafraid, unshaken, willing to hold the silence with strength. Because that's when she feels safe. Not when you have all the answers, but when you have the courage to just be there. You don't have to say much. You don't have to solve anything. You just have to show up with your heart fully engaged. Most men don't realize that their distracted energy speaks louder than their words. She can feel when you're emotionally checked out. She can sense when your thoughts are somewhere else. And every time it happens, a little part of her stops reaching for you, not because she's giving up, but because it hurts too much to feel unseen by someone she's trying to open up to. When you offer your full presence, you awaken something powerful in her. She softens. She lets go. She begins to trust in ways that no grand gesture could ever buy. Because what she really wants is to feel chosen, not just loved out of obligation, but loved out of deep intention. When she knows you're not just physically next to her, but mentally and emotionally with her, she breathes easier. She opens deeper. She loves harder. This isn't about perfection. You don't need to be some flawless, stoic figure. You just need to show up over and over with your energy clear and your focus undivided. That level of presence becomes your power. It makes her feel safe. It makes her feel valued. And when a woman feels safe, her love becomes limitless. Her loyalty becomes unshakable. But she will only give that to a man who's truly there. Not halfway, not distracted, fully. Because presence, more than anything else, is the difference between a relationship that fades and one that lasts. The man who learns this and lives it will never have to chase love. Because real love always stays where it feels seen. No matter how confident she appears, almost every woman has fought a silent war with her reflection. She notices things you'd never see, the smallest imperfections, the subtle changes, the comparisons she makes in her mind to unrealistic standards she never agreed to, but still measures herself by. You may think she knows she's beautiful, but beauty isn't what she feels when she looks in the mirror. It's often pressure. And when she doesn't speak about it, it's not because she's fine. It's because she's tired of trying to meet expectations that were never hers to begin with. She doesn't need constant praise, but she does need to feel seen, genuinely. Not just for her looks, but for the soul that radiates behind them. When your eyes linger on her in admiration without judgment, when you notice the way she lights up a room without saying a word, when you make her feel beautiful without her needing to ask, you begin to repair something the world has quietly broken inside her. Because in a culture that tells her to be thinner, smoother, younger, and flawless, your authentic presence gives her the freedom to just be. Most men underestimate how powerful their gaze is. When you look at her like she's already enough, you shift something inside her. You become the mirror she wishes the world could be, a mirror that reflects her worth without distortion. And when you stop treating her body like a trophy to possess and start honoring it as a vessel of her vulnerability, her creativity, her strength, she begins to feel safe. Safe to stop performing. Safe to stop hiding. Safe to stop trying to earn love through appearance alone. She doesn't need to hear that she's perfect. She needs to know she's accepted, even in the moments when she feels the furthest from it. That's when your validation matters most. Not when she's dressed up, but when she's stripped down emotionally, feeling raw and insecure. That's when your presence carries weight. When you choose to love the version of her she tries to hide, you give her the permission to breathe again. And the man who can offer this doesn't just earn her body, he earns her trust, her loyalty, her deepest love. Because in a world that constantly points out what she lacks, you become the one who reminds her of what she is, complete, enough, beautiful beyond skin. When she feels that from you, not because you're trying to impress her, but because you truly see her, she doesn't just open up, she blooms. And that bloom isn't something temporary. It's the kind of transformation that only happens when a woman feels safe enough to stop criticizing herself and start embracing who she already is. And it all begins with how you choose to see her, not just with your eyes, but with your heart fully open. She's exhausted from always being in control, from having to plan everything, fix everything, and hold it all together. She's strong because she had no other choice, but that strength comes at a cost. It hardens her, not because she wants to be hard, but because the world keeps showing her that softness gets taken for granted. Deep down, she doesn't want to lead every time. She doesn't want to carry the entire emotional weight of the relationship. What she secretly longs for is a man who leads with clarity, with certainty, with direction, not control, but calm authority. She wants to rest, not just physically, but emotionally. She wants to feel like she can lean into something solid without it collapsing under pressure. She wants to trust that when she lets go, you'll be there, not confused, not passive, but rooted. Most men don't realize that when a woman says she wants a strong man, she doesn't mean someone who dominates. She means someone who makes her feel safe enough to surrender. Because when she's always forced to lead, something inside her becomes numb. She starts to believe she's the only one who can be trusted. That belief turns into resentment. Not because she wants power, but because she's tired of having no choice. When a man leads from love, not ego, everything changes. Leadership doesn't mean making all the decisions. It means creating stability. It means showing initiative. It means being dependable without having to be asked. When you move with certainty, when you stand grounded in who you are, when you offer clarity in the chaos, she exhales. She stops bracing for disappointment. She starts to feel held, not just physically, but emotionally. And that feeling is rare. Most women don't know what it's like to truly relax next to a man, to let their guard down, to be met with strength that doesn't demand, but invites. This is what separates boys from men. A boy needs to be told what to do. A man anticipates it. A man sees where direction is needed and steps up, not because he needs praise, but because it's who he is. And when she sees that in you, something opens in her. That tight grip she's been holding on to finally loosens. She starts to breathe differently, speak differently, love differently, because she no longer has to stay in survival mode. When a woman feels like she can stop leading and still be safe, that's when her true feminine energy comes alive. Not the kind shaped by fear, but the kind rooted in trust. That shift only happens in the presence of a man who isn't afraid to take the reins. Not to control her, but to support her. Not to overshadow her, but to walk beside her. That kind of man is unforgettable. Not because he demands respect, but because his energy commands it. Calm, confident, consistent. Be that, and she won't just follow, she'll rise with you, fully, freely, unapologetically. She will test you, not because she wants to push you away, but because she needs to know you're real. Emotional confusion isn't always chaos. Sometimes it's her unconscious way of asking, can I trust you with my truth? When she gets moody, distant, or even critical, she's not trying to manipulate you, she's trying to feel you. She's looking for proof that your strength isn't just surface level. She's looking for something deeper, consistency, presence, emotional solidity, not perfection. just something she can lean on when her heart doesn't know where to land. She's not asking for you to fix her moods. She's not testing you because she wants to fight. She's testing because she wants to feel your center. A woman's emotional energy is dynamic. It flows like water. It rises and falls with her hormones, her environment, her memories, her fears. If you meet that energy with fear or frustration, she withdraws. She shuts down. But if you can meet her with groundedness, if you can hold your own energy and not be pulled into the wave, she starts to relax. She sees that you're not here to control her or react to her. You're here to hold space for her. Every emotional test is an invitation, not to dominate, but to demonstrate your depth. When she's emotionally intense, don't shrink, don't argue, don't try to win. Stay rooted, listen deeply. Observe her energy, not just her words. Behind every storm is a soft question. Will you leave if I'm too much? When you stay calm, connected, and present through it all, she gets her answer, and it changes everything. She sees that your strength isn't reactive. It's embodied. You're not a man who runs. You're a man who remains. That doesn't mean you become passive. Real presence isn't weak. It's firm but kind, clear but gentle. You can hold your boundaries without attacking. You can stand your ground without raising your voice. And when you do that, when you hold your masculine frame with integrity, she softens. Not because you told her to, but because she finally feels safe to. Safe to stop testing, safe to stop bracing, safe to trust. Most men fail here. They take her emotional waves personally. They get defensive, shut down, or try to fix her feelings like a problem to be solved. But a woman doesn't want to be solved. She wants to be felt. She wants to be met, not managed. And when you finally understand that, you step into a level of connection that's rare. A space where she no longer needs to test you because you've already proven that your presence can hold her in all forms. This is what emotional mastery looks like. It's not cold. It's not distant. It's calm, clear, grounded, and alive. And when a woman feels that from you, day after day, storm after storm, she gives you something most men never earn, her full emotional trust. And with that trust comes a depth of love that can't be shaken. She wants to feel chosen, not just once, not just in the beginning, but over and over again, every day, in small ways, in subtle moments, in your tone, in your eyes, in your attention. She doesn't want to wonder where she stands with you. She doesn't want to feel like she's competing with your phone, your distractions, or your indifference. What she craves is not just love, but evidence of love. Ongoing proof that you still see her, still value her, still want her. Not just for what she gives you, but for who she is when she's unfiltered, unguarded, and fully herself. It's easy to give effort at the start. When everything is new, exciting, and unknown, attention flows naturally. But true connection is proven over time, after the initial chase ends, after the thrill fades. That's when most women begin to feel invisible, not because they've changed, but because the energy around them has. The compliments slow down, the glances become shorter, the tone shifts from desire to routine, and slowly she starts to feel like a memory in your present life. Not your priority, just someone you once pursued, but the man who continues to choose her, intentionally, daily, and without needing a reason, unlocks something deeper in her. She stops questioning her place. She stops shrinking to keep your attention. She rises because she knows she's secure in your presence. Your consistency becomes her clarity, your effort becomes her safety, and your devotion becomes the ground she blooms from. Most men don't lose women because of major failures. They lose them in the slow erosion of presence, in the 1,000 tiny moments where she feels taken for granted, in the silence where there used to be reassurance. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stay engaged, stay observant, stay intentional. You have to make her feel like she still matters, like the woman you once chased is the same woman you're still choosing, even now. This doesn't mean grand gestures every day. It means texting her first sometimes. Not out of duty, but desire. It means noticing her new energy, her effort, her mood, and responding with care. It means reaching for her hand when you don't have to. It means reminding her through your consistent presence that she doesn't have to earn your love all over again, that she already has it. When a woman feels this kind of emotional security, she doesn't just relax, she radiates. Her softness returns, her passion deepens, and her loyalty becomes unshakable. But that only happens when she feels chosen, not in words, but in action. If you make her feel like she's still the woman worth fighting for, she will never stop choosing you back, because the heart that feels seen will always stay close. And the woman who knows she's valued doesn't drift, she anchors, she roots. She pours everything into the man who never stopped choosing her. She's tired of always being the one who feels, the one who opens up first, the one who initiates hard conversations, the one who carries the emotional weight of the relationship. Vulnerability for her has become a responsibility rather than a choice. And even though she's good at it, it doesn't mean it's easy. Every time she reveals a piece of her heart, she hopes you'll meet her halfway, that you won't just listen, but open up too, because what she really wants is reciprocity. Not just your attention, your truth, your fear, your raw, unfiltered honesty. Most men were never taught how to be emotionally open. You were told to stay strong, keep it together, push through. But strength without vulnerability isn't power, it's distance. And the more distance she feels, the more alone she becomes, even when she's lying right next to you. She doesn't need you to cry all the time. She doesn't need dramatic displays of emotion. She just needs to know what's real, what's under the surface, what you're actually feeling instead of what you pretend to feel. Because when you keep everything locked inside, she stops trying to connect. Not because she wants to, because she gets tired of reaching with no one reaching back. There's a strength in vulnerability that most men overlook. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you trustworthy. A man who can name his fears without shame, who can admit when he's struggling, who can speak truth without hiding behind anger or silence, that man becomes unforgettable because she's not asking for perfection. She's asking for presence, for realness, for depth. She wants to feel you, not just see you. She wants to know you, not just live beside you. When you share your truth, something powerful happens. You create a safe space where she doesn't have to be strong all the time. She doesn't have to carry the emotional weight alone. She doesn't have to be the only one trying to heal, connect, and grow. You meet her on the emotional battlefield, not to rescue her, but to stand beside her. And when she feels that, the entire dynamic shifts. Her softness returns. Her guard lowers. Her love expands. This is what builds real intimacy, not constant happiness, not a lack of conflict, but mutual emotional courage. Two people willing to be seen without masks. Two people willing to share what hurts, what matters, what's real. And the man who learns to do this not only earns her respect, he earns her devotion, because she doesn't want to be the emotional leader forever. She wants to share the load. She wants to know she's not alone. And the moment you open your heart and let her in, not just physically, but emotionally, she'll meet you with a depth of love you didn't know existed. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real, and that, more than anything, is what she's been waiting for. She doesn't want to compete for your attention. Not with your phone, not with your past, not with the noise in your mind that keeps you distracted even when you're right in front of her. What breaks her down isn't always betrayal. It's the slow decay of feeling like an afterthought, like everything else in your life matters more, like she's present but not prioritized. And over time, that feeling becomes unbearable, not because she's needy, but because no one wants to feel invisible in the space where they've invested their love. A woman will give you everything when she feels seen, but when she feels like an option, she'll start pulling back, not out of punishment, but protection, because emotional neglect doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers through silence, through the absence of appreciation, through the lack of intention. And when you no longer notice her efforts, her energy, her presence, that's when she starts to question her place. That's when she begins to wonder if she's still chosen or just conveniently kept. Attention doesn't require grand gestures. It requires presence. Looking her in the eyes when she speaks, responding with more than nods, noticing when her energy shifts and asking why, making her feel like her world matters to you even if you don't fully understand it. That's what makes her feel valued. That's what makes her feel loved. She doesn't want to be the background music to your distractions. She wants to be the melody you actually hear. When you ignore the small cues, the fading tone in her voice, the slower replies, the sudden silence, you risk losing something sacred. Because women don't always leave when they're angry. Sometimes they leave quietly, emotionally, long before they ever walk away physically. They give chance after chance, hoping you'll notice, hoping you'll return to the version of you who used to care without being reminded. And when that doesn't happen, they learn to stop asking. Not because they've stopped loving, but because they're tired of begging to matter. You don't have to be perfect to keep her attention. You just have to be mindful, present, engaged. She wants to feel like she exists in your world even when nothing dramatic is happening. She wants to know she doesn't need to be in crisis to be important. And when you show her that her energy is not just tolerated but deeply valued, something inside her shifts. She feels safe to give again. She feels safe to stay. The man who learns how to give consistent, meaningful attention without being forced, without being begged, creates a bond that's nearly unbreakable. Because real love doesn't just show up in the highs, it's proven in the unnoticed moments. The quiet ones, the ordinary ones. And when you make those moments matter, she will never forget, because she will never need to question whether she still matters to you. She'll know, and she'll stay. Not out of habit, but out of trust. She doesn't expect perfection. She never needed you to have all the answers. What she needed was effort. The kind that says, I may not know everything, but I'm here. I care. I'm trying. When you stop trying, she feels it in her soul. She may not say anything right away, but the shift doesn't go unnoticed. Love for her is built in the effort, those small, consistent acts that show her she's still worth showing up for. When that effort fades, her faith begins to fade with it. Not because she's fragile, but because she understands one truth deeply: where there is no effort, there is no intention. She has a heart that notices the little things. The way your words start feeling hollow, the way your eyes stop lighting up, the way you stop asking questions, stop initiating closeness, stop doing the things you once did so naturally. And no matter how independent she is, no matter how much she holds herself together, she is still human. She still aches to feel pursued, to feel like love wasn't just a phase, it was a promise followed by proof. The difference between attention and commitment is in the consistency. Anyone can show up once. What matters is who shows up every day, even when it's not convenient. She'll match your energy without making it obvious. If you give less, she'll pull back. Not to manipulate, but to protect her dignity. She knows when she's becoming someone's second priority, and she refuses to beg for basic presence. She may hold on for a while, hoping you'll notice, but if nothing changes, she'll adapt. She'll start pouring her energy into herself, into the places that feed her instead of drain her. That's when you lose her. Not in some dramatic moment, but in the quiet shift where her heart closes to what no longer feels safe. You don't need to be the best man in the world to keep her. You just need to be a man who shows up. A man who puts in the work, not just when he feels like it, but especially when he doesn't. The work of understanding her, the work of listening without dismissing, the work of growing, evolving, healing together. That effort is what earns her trust. That consistency is what keeps her love alive. Because when she sees you trying, not just for her, but for yourself, she starts to believe in something rare, the possibility of a love that deepens over time. When you stop making her feel like she has to beg for effort, she opens. She thrives. She gives you a level of devotion you've never known, not because you were perfect, but because you kept choosing her every single day, even when it wasn't easy. And that's the kind of love that doesn't fade. That's the kind of love that stays rooted, grows stronger, and outlasts the storms, because effort, to her, is everything. There's a kind of silence that wounds deeper than any argument. It's the silence of dismissal, the silence that happens when she opens up and you brush it off, when her voice trembles and you change the subject, when her feelings come to the surface and you look the other way. She doesn't need you to solve her pain. She needs you to make space for it, to hear it, to sit with it, to honor it like it matters. Because when a woman shares her emotions, she's not being dramatic, she's being courageous. And how you respond in that moment will either deepen the bond or quietly begin to break it. When you ignore her pain, you're telling her that her emotions are too much, that her experience is inconvenient, that her truth doesn't fit inside your comfort zone. And even if you don't say the words, she hears them. She hears them in your silence, in your impatience, in the way you look away when her voice shakes. And that, more than anything, teaches her to hide, to bury the truth, to carry the weight of her heart alone. Not because she wants to, but because she no longer feels safe letting you in. A woman doesn't expect you to always know what to say. She's not asking for perfect responses. She's asking for presence, for stillness, for the strength to stay emotionally engaged even when her feelings overwhelm you. When she cries, don't run. When she's angry, don't dismiss her. When she's vulnerable, don't mock her softness. Hold the space. Listen with your heart, not just your ears. Let her know through your energy that her emotions are not burdens. They're bridges, pathways to deeper connection, if you're willing to walk across them with her. Emotional safety isn't created in easy moments. It's created in the hard ones. When she feels anxious and you don't flinch. When she breaks down and you stay calm. When she's honest about something messy and you meet her with compassion, not criticism. That's when she begins to trust at a soul level. That's when she knows her heart isn't too fragile to be held. That's when she starts believing this love might actually be different. The man who learns to hold emotional space becomes unforgettable, not because he has all the answers, but because he provides what most can't: safety without judgment, presence without pressure, love without withdrawal. And when she feels that from you consistently, she begins to show you sides of her no one else has seen. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Through patience, through stillness, through care. The deepest part of her doesn't want to be fixed. She wants to be felt. And the man who can feel with her, not above her, becomes the man she fights for, the one she trusts, the one she doesn't have to hide from. Because in him, she finds a rare refuge, one where her emotions are not only allowed, but finally understood. She watches how you handle pressure. Not just the big moments, but the small ones that reveal who you really are. How you speak when you're frustrated. How you treat her when you've had a long day. How you act when things don't go your way. Because that's when your true nature surfaces. Anyone can be kind when life is smooth, but it's how you show up when things get messy that tells her whether your strength is real or just a performance. She's not expecting you to be unshakable, but she's paying attention to whether your presence turns to poison under stress. She needs emotional stability, not chaos. She wants to feel that when the world is heavy, you won't take that weight out on her, that your mood won't change the atmosphere in the room like a storm rolling in. She wants a man who can feel deeply, but doesn't bleed those feelings all over everyone else. A man who knows how to regulate his emotions without suppressing them. Because what she fears most isn't your anger. It's the unpredictability that makes her feel like she's walking on eggshells, never knowing who she'll get that day. Your emotional control is not about silence, it's about awareness. It's about recognizing when your energy shifts and choosing to process it rather than project it. When she sees that you can stay calm, communicate clearly, and take ownership of your emotional world, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, she relaxes. Her guard drops. Her love flows. Because now she knows she doesn't have to carry the burden of your storms on top of her own. Women often grow up being the emotional caretakers. They're taught to soothe, to fix, to absorb. But the man who can carry his own emotional weight becomes a sanctuary for her. He becomes the one place she doesn't have to overextend, overexplain, or overfunction. And that changes everything. Because now she can be in her feminine energy fully. Soft, expressive, at peace. Not bracing, not performing, just being. She will never ask for perfection, but she will require growth. She's watching to see if you're aware of your patterns, if you can apologize without being defensive, if you can reflect without shutting down. That emotional maturity is what separates a fleeting connection from a lifelong bond. And when she sees that in you, when she sees that you're not just reacting but responding with wisdom, she opens up in ways you've never seen before. A woman's softness is not a weakness. It's a gift. But she won't give it to a man who creates instability with his moods. She gives it to the one who proves again and again that his strength is not in control, but in conscious choice. The man who stays calm when it counts. The man who brings peace, not confusion. The man who leads himself first, so she never has to question if he can lead her too. She listens to what you say, but she remembers what you do. Words matter, but consistency is what earns her trust. She's been through empty promises before. She's heard sweet lines that led nowhere. That's why she's careful now. Not cynical, just wise. She's learned to watch patterns, not moments. Intentions mean nothing if they're not followed by action. She needs more than talk. She needs truth lived through behavior. Because the deepest part of her isn't just looking for love, it's looking for alignment, integrity. Proof that what you say and what you do are one and the same. When your actions match your words, she begins to relax. She starts to believe. She stops bracing for disappointment. But when there's a gap, when you say one thing and do another, that's when she begins to pull away. Not because she wants to leave, but because she knows what it feels like to stay in something that looks good on the surface but feels hollow underneath. She doesn't want to doubt you. She wants to trust. She wants to feel anchored. But that only happens when you show up in ways that don't need explaining. A woman's nervous system is deeply intuitive. It picks up on inconsistencies. She may not voice it right away, but she'll feel it. She'll sense when your attention is divided, when your promises are just convenient words, when your interest is performative rather than sincere. And every time you choose convenience over commitment, she quietly adjusts her expectations. She starts to believe less in your potential and more in your pattern. Because to her, love isn't proven in how you feel, it's proven in how you act, especially when no one is watching. Real leadership in a relationship comes from reliability, being where you said you'd be, following through without needing to be reminded, staying emotionally present even when it's uncomfortable. That's what makes her feel safe. That's what makes her respect you, not just for what you offer, but for who you are. And that kind of respect can't be bought. It's earned piece by piece in the moments you think don't matter. You don't need to be flawless. You just need to be honest. If you fall short, own it. If you forget, acknowledge it. If you mess up, apologize with sincerity and change the behavior. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for effort backed by truth. That's the kind of effort that heals her. That rebuilds the parts of her that once believed no one would ever show up consistently. And when she sees that in you, her walls begin to drop. Not because she's letting go of her standards, but because you've risen to meet them. The man who lives his word becomes unforgettable. Not because he impresses her with grand promises, but because he grounds her with dependable action. And in a world full of noise, distraction, and illusion, that kind of man becomes rare, respected, and deeply, deeply loved. She pays attention to how you handle her boundaries, not the ones she screams, but the ones she quietly sets, the lines she draws with her tone, with her pauses, with her silence. She notices how you respond when she says no. She watches how you react when she asks for space, when she needs time to think, when she protects her peace. It's in those moments that she learns whether you're safe or selfish, whether you see her as someone to connect with or someone to control, because love without respect is just disguised possession. And she refuses to shrink her truth to keep someone else comfortable. Respecting her boundaries doesn't make you weak. It proves your strength. It shows you understand that intimacy isn't about crossing lines. It's about honoring them. When she says she's not ready, she's not rejecting you. She's protecting herself. When she asks for clarity, she's not challenging you. She's trying to trust you. But when a man takes her limits personally, when he pushes instead of listens, when he shames her for protecting her heart, he becomes a threat, not a partner. And once she feels unsafe, emotionally or mentally, it takes more than words to bring her back. What she longs for is a man who values her voice, a man who doesn't just wait for her to agree, but listens when she doesn't, a man who doesn't get defensive when she disagrees, but curious. That curiosity shows maturity, that willingness to hear her without needing to dominate the conversation. That's what makes her feel seen, because she's not trying to win, she's trying to connect. But connection without safety isn't love, it's just pressure wearing a mask. Most men think boundaries are walls. But the truth is, boundaries are bridges. They are invitations to deeper intimacy. They say, this is what I need to feel secure with you. And when you honor them, when you respond with understanding rather than resistance, you build a foundation of trust that nothing else can replace. She sees that you're not here just to get your way. You're here to understand her way too. And that's where real connection begins. Not in perfect agreement, but in mutual respect. A woman's heart is not unlocked through pressure. It opens in the presence of patience. It flourishes when she feels her boundaries are not just tolerated, but valued. Because then she knows you're not just there for what you can take, but for what you're willing to build. That's what separates a man who wants access from a man who wants depth. And when she finds that kind of man, she doesn't hold back. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't protect herself from him. She opens. She leans in. She gives fully, freely, and without fear, because she knows she's not just loved. She's respected. And to her, that's everything. That's the difference between a connection that fades and a love that never leaves.